Hi, everyone, and welcome to another SIG Windows meeting. As you guys remember, we meet every 2 weeks. Unfortunately, we're at the same time as some of the SIG node meetings, so they have changed their time to conflict with ours. I don't know if there's a good way for us to change our time. I'm not sure if any of us also want to attend SIG node. If there is a big need and folks want to attend both meetings, let me know and we'll see if we can work out a different time for SIG Windows. I'm Michael from Aprenda. Also from Aprenda, we have Jitu Burat. And I see a couple more folks here, Efmin and Amrutag. If you guys want to quickly introduce yourselves, say a quick hi, and then we'll go into status.
Hi, this is Feng. I'm the tech lead from Google. I work on the Windows virtualization. So currently, I'm working with engineer Prius from the Aprenda on the Kubernetes stuff on the Windows, GC Windows.
Excellent, thank you.
Hi, this is Amrita. I'm a PM on the Google Compute team, and I work with Fang on Windows support and GCE.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so let me give you a little bit of the status of what's going on in the last couple of weeks and where we are going from here. So, like both of you mentioned so far, we have Piresh from our team who I think couldn't join us today. We just finished a bunch of meetings at Aprenda, so I think he's tied up with some of that. But we're working on essentially a couple of different areas, getting Kubernetes and producing good documentation on how to run Kubernetes, including the Windows support on GCP. In addition to ensuring that you can get networking inside the container to work on basically all platforms. That includes on-premise, GCP, Azure, AWS, and so on and so forth, with our primary goal getting it enabled on GCP first. So Piresh is working with you guys. It looks like the only way we can get that to work is by providing multiple virtual network adapters on the containers, where one of them is the transparent network adapter, and that's where we do the connectivity and routing inside Kubernetes. But then you need a secondary adapter that will do the network address translation. That's not a very efficient model, and also not a scalable model. So we're trying to see how else we can accomplish that. In order to do that, what Piresh is doing is he's working with the folks over at OVN and OVS, and they're trying to see how we can get some of the capabilities that exist in the Linux world for OVN and OVS and make them available, including the NAT capability on the Windows world. That seems to be at least a few weeks away, so they're not there yet. But he's working on them, and we're making progress. We just don't have any ETA yet or anything else.
So for the OVS stuff, do you know, and maybe I check with the players directly, but do you know it's the functionality is already there, or they are trying to work with people building up that kind of functionality?
Some OVN OVS functionality exists because they make it available for Hyper-V, which is the hypervisor capability on the Windows side, but the NAT capabilities were not there, so that's all new.
Okay, because yeah, it sounds like it's a very powerful tool to try to solve a smaller problem, because all we need is NAT, like a source based NAT. So I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So we're a little bit further out from that.
So what company is that? This OVS stuff?
Cloudbase is the name of the company that we're working the most with.
Okay. I think they are open source project. I'm probably gonna take a look.
Yeah, the company has some commercial support, but the OVN OVS is an open source solution. So the goal is OVS 2.7 release to come out within the next 1-2 months, and that was early January, right? So we're talking about late February, March timeframe. and Cloudbase is talking to Microsoft about some of these networking capabilities. Okay, so that's number one. The second thing, we are working with Microsoft as well to make sure that we get some of these container mode networking available for Kubernetes, for Docker on Windows. Microsoft has not given us an ETA yet, and some of our discussions fall under NDA, but rest assured that we're working on them and we're trying to push for having a solution natively from Microsoft for container mode networking. So basically two distinct routes. There's the CNI plugin for OVN OVS, including that Piresh is working on, and also the container mode networking from Microsoft that we're trying to do. Either of those two approaches, as we get more clarity and we get near the end game, would allow us to re-architect what networking would look like for Windows and Kubernetes and figure out, do we replace kubeproxy or do we enhance it? Right now we don't know until we get closer, but we are working on both of those solutions. That's item number one. Item number two on the docket is we are blocked by some Microsoft container bugs to enable config bugs and secrets. John Howard, who is the Microsoft lead working with the Docker and Windows Server containers, and he's part of the team that's maintaining that repo, has acknowledged the ticket, but we have not gotten an ETA yet. So G2, maybe this is a good time to go back to John Howard and see if there's an update on that.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him later today and see if there is any update, or at least an ETA.
Excellent. G2 has also started very recently, although I believe we did not make a lot of progress yet, to look into ensuring that we get plugged in into the C Advisor and the container runtime interface work that's happening mostly out of SIG Node, and ensure that we get to be part of both the defining how that interface is gonna be exposed, what kind of properties and capabilities are gonna happen, but also to make sure that whatever gets implemented would meet either what we need for Windows or can be easily extended or plugged in for the Windows support. So G2 is probably going to have a much bigger update on that within the next 2 weeks when we've made a little bit of progress there. Piresh, I know you wanted to add something on the OVS side. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, hi Feng and Namruta. Welcome. Yeah, so today I had another meeting with the Cloudbase guys, and we have been able to work or getting stuff to work regarding like the container networking issue. But by the way, Michael, I wasn't here before, so I'm not sure if you have met Feng before, but Feng and Peter are people from GCP that helped me get container networking running on Windows. Yep. Obviously with those limitations we had identified before. And so far with OVN, which is part of the OVS, we were able to change a little bit of Docker. So a Docker network plugin that is able to get information from OVN, or in this case OVS database. So it assigns and creates like new virtual NICs and does some flows, which basically is like IP tables rules on Linux. So kubeproxy here would work. We could replace it with OVS flows. We could replace the current behavior that we have with the NetSH with those flows, and all of that would work. The only thing that we're still trying to look at how we would implement is the localhost behavior on multi-container pods. So after we have an idea on how to implement this, the Cloudbase guys and I are going to try and get it to work. And if we are able to do this, then the question will be, should we, or is there anything against adopting OVS and OVN as the networking solution here? Because there are a couple questions or sub-questions in this bigger question, which is first, we're talking about the third-party solution, even though it's everything is open source, even the Windows extension from the cloud-based guys, this is all open source. So what exactly is needed for us to have this working, let's say, on Windows machines on Google cloud platform? Or, you know, and people may look at it and get worried that, okay, now we need to use OVS, OVN, both for Windows and Linux machines, which is not entirely true, but people will look at this at first. Because in the end, OVS, OVN is basically just a tunneling solution. There are plenty like protocols they implement, like Geneve, MPLS, GRE, and those could be leveraged to have like OVS on Windows, but something else on Linux, but that would be very difficult to achieve. So that would be the first like thing here. And the second one would definitely be what kind of changes would be needed to be in place for Kubernetes to play along with, so either a CNI plugin or a Docker plugin, but that would limit the runtimes that we would support. For instance, in Linux, you have Docker, you have Rocket, and you have you have a different one. I cannot recall, an OCID, and a few other ones in the future.
So let me ask you something. It's not necessarily one of the statements you made is we don't have to enforce OVN OVS for Linux, right? You can just have an implementation with potentially a CNI plugin specifically just for the Windows side.
That's not entirely correct. I mean, we would still need to, so if we do this on Windows, then definitely there needs to be, for instance, let's say you're using Weave or Flannel on the Linux side. Obviously, you need something that is compatible with that on the Windows side, and vice versa. So if you're using OVS, OVN to instrument the network on the Windows side, then something else needs to understand exactly what's going on the Linux side. And this may be simply just adopt the same tunneling, tunneling implementation. So use GRE or Geneve, for instance. That is completely possible. But CNI plugins are very stateless in the sense of they only react to when a kubelet in a certain node adds a pod or removes a pod. That's basically it. While the full solution like Flannel or Calico or WeaveNet, they have a few other components that are outside of the CNI plugin. The CNI plugin is just a thing that connects or integrates their solution with the Kubernetes networking side. But in the end, if we had, let's say, WeaveNet for Windows, we couldn't trivially, in a trivial way, have WeaveNet on Windows and Flannel or Calico on Linux, you know, because there are two different things. In the end, it's just IP, and you could change stuff to make that work, but it's not clear exactly, and that ends my second question or sub-question. It's not clear exactly what we would need to do to make that work.
Yeah, so I guess right now it's too early. I know that there's been investments with Tigera and Calico. So, you know, as we move forward and we better understand the landscape or OVN, OVS, and as the cloud-based team and everybody else is getting closer to OVS 2.7, that would enable the Docker implementation, the node capabilities that we talked about, then we can see what the proper architecture will be. And we definitely need to go back to SIG network and explain them that so they can understand the trade-offs of an approach where there's a single CNI that would span Linux and Windows, and whether that CNI needs to be something like OVN OVS that would give us the capabilities we need on Windows or something else. And it is the responsibility, you're right, at that point, the responsibility of the different tunneling solutions to see if there's a way that they can work together. So one of them is deployed on Linux and the other one is on Windows. I would understand that from a cloud-based perspective, they have the upper hand because they're the only ones that could work on Windows at that point. So yeah, let's keep making progress on that. And in our stand-up, maybe we can figure out when the right time is to bring this up to the SIG network guys. When there is maybe a way that we can also maybe do them a small demo or something like that.
Sure, I will for sure. Feng, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and maybe not good time here. Maybe I think up with offline. But I would like to get understanding. Because as we discussed the container networking issue, the only thing seems to be prevent it from working is like the Windows is lacking of the like a source address based NAT capability. The basic equivalent IP table, like using destination to like to the NAT, right? Windows don't have a built-in capability for that, and then we end up like create a separate adapter for the container and using combine both transparent and the NAT to provide such a capability. So sounds like you are trying to using OVS and OVM and introducing a lot of stuff. So my question is, in addition to the like NAT capability, is there anything else this solution is bring to the table so we can like much simplify the user experience or like enable some like a scenario we couldn't do before?
Very good question, Feng. So here's the thing. So when I reached you, the thing we were aiming at was just to fix the NAT issue that it still exists, not just on Google, obviously. But while looking at possible solutions, we run across the OVN port to Windows. And the thing here, it doesn't yet fix the NAT issue, but it fixes or provides ways for us to fix the other limitations we had around the Windows container support for Kubernetes. Namely, we cannot have more than one container per pod. That's one of them, and actually it's a big one because it's something that everyone is looking for.
Gotcha.
And it will allow us in the future to do this heterogeneous clusters where we have Linux and Windows nodes, and they all work in the same way and provide the same features. So yes, OVN and OVS, or in this case just OVN, which is basically Open Virtual Network. It's something that leverages on the OVS Open vSwitch solution. It will just open more opportunities for what we can do. And if we're looking at fixing just the internet connectivity a problem within Windows containers, we already found a solution, right? So we can have like the two networks, but we can do that manually, not in the Kubernetes context. And that's the hardest thing to do here, is to have a container with two networks. How can we do that? Within Kubernetes, you can't. You need to change the kubelet code, particularly the code that manages containers, so that it creates the container, attaches the networks, runs the container, and then later changes routes inside the container. This is very, very difficult. I've tried very hard to achieve this, and it's very, very difficult, particularly the last step, which is even if the Kubernetes people accepted that we have a different implementation for Windows where we create the container, we attach two networks, and then we can run the container, the step about adding routes and all of that inside the container, it's not trivial. Actually, to me, according to my experience, it's not possible. With OVS, that's pretty much given to you because you're managing like the OVS virtual bridges. So it's something that can be done at the host level that will have an impact on the container. And another thing, another big improvement is, for instance, the implementation that we have for kubeproxy. So the way that we do packet forwarding and blocking and all of that, that's possible with OVS. They have this notion of stateful firewalling, which are like flows. There are standards for that, which integrate beautifully with networking equipment, like Cisco networking equipment and all of that. And that's very powerful. But right now, we rely on NetSH, which only supports like TCP. It's very limited, so we can't do much. We did quite a stretch to get very little, real world functionality here. So is now clear why we are looking into more complex solutions.
Okay, understand.
All right, guys. So let's move on here. Thanks, Suresh, for the very detailed explanation. A couple of other things that are on our docket, things that we need to work on, and maybe for some of them we don't really have the manpower yet. We do want to see some of the end-to-end tests happening. We've raised this in the past, and we'll look at Apprenda to see if we can provide additional resources to help us on this. It looks like nobody volunteered from the Kubernetes community to come and help us write some of these tests. So if someone does want to volunteer, please send me an email or a Slack message, and we'll see how we can scope the work in milestones and see what we can deliver in the short term. Right, so we've touched on a whole lot of different topics on the networking from Microsoft, networking from OV and OVS. We talked about CRI and the C Advisor. We talked a little bit about end-to-end tests right now. And the last thing that I have here is that there are a couple of PRs that we have coming from SIG Windows that we're waiting for folks like Brendan Burns to approve. We've pinged them a couple of times so far. It doesn't seem like this has helped. So hopefully, they'll find a little bit of free time to help get those PRs approved and merged. From the Apprenda perspective, there's no other updates. We have a couple of minutes left if anybody else wants to provide an update or say something.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Regarding the test, I just want to add that one of the things we were looking at was to have Windows servers where we could get test infra, which is another repository of the Kubernetes organization that's needed to automate testing. So right now, and for the people that are not aware of this, people that are hacking on Kubernetes code, since 99.9999% of them are on Linux or Mac, when they compile for Linux. So usually the compiler will ignore the specifics of the Windows implementations. And so very easily they can break our implementation, if we can call it that way. So we need test infrastructure in place so that the Kubernetes bot, verifies each PR that changes code related, let's say the kubelet or kube proxy. We need to make sure that there are tests for Windows that run on Windows to validate this. And this is very hard. I've also looked into it. It would be amazing if we could have input from more seasoned Kubernetes developers, particularly around test infrastructure and all of that.
Yeah, so whoever picks that up and has time to dedicate on that, definitely will have to go and sync with the guys that run the automation for Kubernetes, which is all of them Google employees, and see how we can introduce the necessary both infrastructure as well as automation workflows to make this happen. So yeah, nobody underestimates the amount of work that will be necessary to do this. A lot of it will be political. Some of it will be getting the actual hardware and all the infrastructure set up. And then, the last big part of it is obviously running the tests.
I will try to find some Google engineer on the Kubernetes side to talk about the issue to see if we can have some solution. Okay.
Excellent.
That's great. Mike, I was going to ask, have we reached out to Sarah about this or anybody else at the CNCF to see if the CNCF cluster can add any Windows nodes?
I mean, they probably could. It would not be a problem. It's a budget problem, so I don't see that would be an issue. The problem is that we need someone from SIG Windows that would take the ownership to actually write the test and kind of drive this. So we don't have that person yet.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. This is the end. Thank you for attending the SIG Windows meeting. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. If anyone is interested in attending the stand-up that happens twice a week on Monday and Thursday, early in the morning, Eastern time, shoot us a message on Slack and we'll forward you that invite. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
guys.
Bye.